Matt
Hey,
is in the
hey.
house. He is a lighting pro. He's almost a legend in the industry. He's not quite to that status, I don't think yet. He's still out in the field actually doing work. Actually, I think most of his crews now at this point. You go on just kind of see how they are doing, but you're not actually doing a lot of the work yourself anymore these days. Is that correct?
Yeah, for the majority of the case, yeah. I mean, right now, I like to go through these places where I like just fire everybody for, and then have to go do the work myself, but I'm trying to get better at that.
Oh yeah. So Matt, how long ago did you start doing Christmas lights?
I started in 2009.
2009. So you're actually been doing Christmas lights longer than me. I think I started in 2011, might have been
Okay.
2012. I can't remember which season it was. So you've been doing you've been doing Christmas lights for
This
Christmas
will be what?
lights
16 years?
almost
Ish.
15, 16 years. So he's
Yeah.
definitely not new to the space, and he actually he. What was the most numbers you ever did in your Christmas light business? Were you over 500,000?
Yeah, I would always plateau right at the like anywhere from like the 7 to 800,000 because I couldn't hire enough guys. So I would always help. I would end up helping other companies that were starting in my area, so that I could just make sure that everyone that was calling me could get work. Because I'd have like 200 plus leads every year that were ready to pay me, and I just simply couldn't do it because I couldn't get the temporary help I needed in time. So it was just bad planning on my part there.
Well, not really, because you actually did a lot better than so. Me and Donovan figured out. We've been doing a lot of surveys of people, especially in the last year, trying to figure out the big sticking point for the majority, probably 80 to 90% of Christmas light companies that stay in business for a while is they don't really. They have a very tough time getting beyond 2 to 300,000. So you
Oh,
figured it out, getting to 7 to 8. Now are you at so at that point, were you mostly a standalone business, or did you have what were your other seasonal services?
that was it. For I was just Christmas, and then I had a marketing company, so I would kind of just um, I didn't really I didn't have another service, if you will. I was fine in terms of money, so I didn't do anything else.
Here, hold on real quick. We're starting to mow the lawn outside.
Oh boy.
So you had no labor. So you actually have done much better than most anyone I've ever interviewed. So you figured out a way to get to 700,000 without having seasonal or without having year-round employees. Because your marketing company, those people probably are not the same as Christmas light installers. Is that correct?
No, that's correct. They're mainly VAs. Yeah, they're all VAs. Who am I kidding? And then one other guy. So, yeah, no,
You
that
were
was definitely the toughest part, right?
you were using VAs all the way back. That you were using VAs before people knew what VAs were.
The
That sounds
VAs
like
are this whole new to the industry thing, but they're not new to the industry. Like marketing guys, we've been using them forever. All right.
I'm still trying to figure out. I might have to do a side chat with you after this, but I have a VA right now, and to be honest, like I can't figure out stuff for him to do because I don't want to lose him for Christmas lights. He does a good job for my Christmas lights, but for the
Yeah.
rest of the year, we're using them, and I constantly got to figure out what to do. I could probably we could probably have what we're having them do is post content for us and
Sure.
edit our websites, which is good, but I feel like we need to find more stuff for him to do.
Yeah, that's the hardest part is you find out that these guys can do more work than you expect because they're like dedicated to it. They're not like a business owner who we're trying to do 3,000 things at once. And then when you assign them tasks that you think are going to take like a week or a month and they're done that day, it's like, well, okay, all right. So that's the hardest part of working with when you start,
That is
giving that
crazy.
work.
I probably need to sit down and basically the teacher needs to be taught. Like you were doing 700,000 with the seasonal business. So you had no year-round employees as part of your install business, and you're able to get up to seven. How would you find people? Like my biggest issue, I'm a standalone business,
Yeah.
and the biggest issue for me is to find return labor because they always find something during the year. My best employees have a very tough time. Some of them come back, and I really try to take care of them. I pay them well, but no matter how much you pay them for those 3 months, it's hard to match a year-round job that is
Yeah.
paying them even an average wage.
Yeah, for sure. Now, yes, I mean, part of it, I was able to get a lot of these guys to actually come back. Like I had, maybe 3 core guys that came back for a very long time. Now it's changed since then where I'll lose them, but I had those 3 core guys that for whatever reason would just quit their jobs every time I said, "Hey man, Christmas is starting." They would quit and come work for me through January. Paid them well. They knew it was kind of just unlimited overtime. I just let them work, and I got lucky in that respect. It was also how I, treated them and trained them. But um,
So
and
when
that,
you're doing 700,000 a year, were you like doing $4 and $5 a foot, or what was your typical average roof line job?
no, my average roof line job when we first started hitting those was probably 7 or 8, and I sell I don't rent it, so it was, it's 7 or 8 on the reinstall for a foot line, about 12 first year.
That's pretty good, actually. I like that model. So 12 to put it up the first year and 7 or 8 to reinstall. I would probably even advocate that model because that's enough where you're making it's a good incentive to sell, but then you're still incentivized to come back and rehang for $6 and $7 a foot. Because yeah,
Yeah.
that's. But now, how would you deal? Did you store the customer's material, or would you let them store it?
Well, my first 2 years, I let them. Maybe first year, I let them store it, and just it was horrible idea. So I have my very first client that I did in 2009. He's still around. He's the only one that gets to store his own lights. Everybody else, they have to store with us.
Yeah, and exactly because of that. My biggest problem. I used to sell the lights to my customers, even the ones. There's still a few customers that I sold the lights to like 10 years ago, so I'm still installing them. And
Yeah.
I do not. I would sell the lights for a lot of money the first year, and then afterwards I would install them for like $2 a foot, and
Oh,
that's
really?
that's like going out of business numbers. And so I had like 5 year contracts with these people. So at the end
Oh,
of the fifth
really?
year, I was like, yeah, I need out of this. So you can go find another installer. I pass it off to my subcontract. I already destroyed the customer. It was not anyone wanted to touch.
Right.
Because so you were doing $6-7 a foot to restart, but the biggest thing, even the ones that I sold the lights, I learned right away after the second year, I need to keep their lights, even though I am the one that sold them, because we would have to go back 2 or 3 times to make sure they put the lights outside. And when you're trying to
Yeah.
like have all your installs, so we'd figure, well, our reinstalls are really easy because we're not remeasuring or anything. It's just in a tote. Well, you schedule a bunch of reinstalls all in the same neighborhood, and then you got to go back to the same house 2 or 3 times because they don't set it out. So we started storing all their material. So if you do sell the lights, anyone that's watching this, anyone that sells the lights, make sure you store them yourself. Because
Yes.
I hear that the guys always saying, well, I sell the lights because I don't want to pay for warehouse space, or I don't want to pay for to have to move it around all this. Well, you are tanking your business if you're going to let them store the lights. There's 2 issues. One, they're not going to put them out, and so you can't have your schedule. And two, they're going to end up hiring a handyman at some point for $99 to hang those lights. So do not let them store the lights, even if you sell them to them.
Yeah, another thing with that too, I found is like it's always they end up having that one party during the year where they need like a lead cord or something, and they open up that Christmas box and they pull from it. It's like you go back and you're like, what happened? Like you clearly touched something, and like I needed something. We were having a party, so they're pulling from it. So basically, what I tell people, if we don't store it, there's no warranty. I do a 3 year warranty when you buy the lights, and we store them, and then I offer basically it's a annual after on the 4th year on there's like $150 charge. It continues your warranty forever, and that's just super badass in terms of profitability.
Now I know you got into permanent lighting before people even knew what permanent lighting was, and I know that was to help you get a year-round crew.
Yeah.
How did that help supplement so you could keep some of your guys around? Was that kind of a slow starter?
It was well, so I was really trying to keep one guy on, right? I had a salesman who was commission only, so super easy to keep them on, but I wanted an operations manager on all year, and he needed to be salaried. So I was able to, when I first started doing the permanent soffit lighting, I mean, we came out of the barrel pretty good. I think we did like want to say anywhere from like I think around 200,000 our first year of doing in just the permanent soffit lighting. So more than enough to cover, my operations manager's salary. So it was perfect for me.
So did that help you hit the ground running when Christmas light season came around a little bit or
Yeah, I
not?
mean, just that no, because I ended up having I think 2 guys that first year that was able to keep on. Like full time or basically full time. So I had two guys that I knew I could count on that were counting on me for the rest of the year job. So I knew they'd be there. They already knew how to work with me. They knew the systems. So it definitely made it smoother in that regard for sure. Like just to know I had those two core guys at least at a minimum. And then it ended up, becoming three or four guys throughout the year. And that was just perfect because I could split up crews and I knew I had anywhere from 3 to 4 crew leads for Christmas because I had four guys who understood what we do and knew how to work with me.
So did that push you between the permanent lighting and the Christmas lights? Did that ever push you over 1 million? Or that still didn't quite get you there?
Yeah, it did.
It did. It did. Wow. And
Yeah.
that's before you started. Now your big thing is landscape lighting. But even before landscape lighting, you were able to do $1 million gross revenue between the permanent lights and the Christmas lights.
Yeah. So I hit that first year I actually started doing the everything. I think we hit like it was like so close to 1 million. And so then the second year of doing it, it was like 1.2 and then 1.4. So yeah, it was
You do a lot of permanent lights, it sounds like.
yeah, I mean, and then I'm mixing that with landscape lighting. So now I kind of mix them both together, right? Like, so permanent lighting for me is the soffit lights or landscape lights. Like, I kind of use them hand in hand, depends on the client. So yeah, man, it replaced the money for Christmas, and it wasn't so under the gun in terms of Thanksgiving is coming type of deal, right?
So you were doing 700,000 before, and then you took on permanent lights. So you were able to maintain one crew. So that crew for your permanent lights, would that one break apart into multiple crews? Like they were all crew leaders that you kept on, and you let the crew leader stay with you, and the rest you kind of have to let go
Yeah.
for the out of season. And then
Yep.
so yeah, because what I found, our company, we have basically one crew, and my one crew chief, like he can just run my whole company. So that's
Okay.
really good, but I need another one like him, and I could probably almost double my business if I could get two guys like him. But then they both are going to operate different. So he's almost like my chief of operations. I don't know how it could scale to the next level. But so you had four crews to do 700,000. Is that
Yeah, I mean, I'd start with four. Let me be very clear, right? Because hiring that initial push is always easy in terms of I can get 20, 25 guys, realizing that those temporary guys are, I hire 25, maybe 21 show up day one, maybe 18 show up day two. So they kind of weed themselves out. So then I ended up always kind of landing on this two full crews and then one boom crew is kind of where I'd always end up after maybe a week and a half of all the temporary guys leaving.
Yeah, so that's what I found. It's a real tip. You got to overhire. You really got to hire just a lot of people, especially if you're like I guess like Matt or like me. Like I've learned, I just hire a whole army of people at the beginning of the
Yeah.
season because a lot of them don't stay around. They realize they just don't like the outdoor work. But I don't know if you can confirm. I haven't ever asked you this question, but for me, I'll actually. So a lot of them will kind of weed themselves out over time. They're just not real reliable. But then the first cold snap, the first time you get into not above freezing during the day, like I end up losing a lot of them, especially if
Oh,
they're
yeah.
the first year hires. So then I
Yeah.
know, okay, they're not coming back next year. So even if they want to come back, because would you lose a bunch of people with the first cold snap? There always is one sometime in November, maybe every
Yeah.
once in a while it's late November, but sometimes it's a little earlier. And like 2 years ago, man, my labor got just horribly in because we had that cold snap, I think, like the first week of November, which in all the years I've been doing Christmas lights, that's never happened. I think we were like highs in the 20s, like the first week of November, and I
Yeah.
lost like almost all my temporary or all my college students that year, and they never came back even when it warmed up.
Yeah, oh yeah, 100%. So I lose them on that first cold snap where they're like, okay, this isn't for me at all. Like it's temporary job. That's the other thing in their mind where like they know job ends in January. So am I going to put up with this cold? So it's the cold snap, and that first day they got to use a 40-foot ladder. Like they just
Yeah.
see it and they're gone.
Yeah. So anyone that thinks that they're gonna, so I would say most guys in the Christmas light business can't really get off the ground because they can't figure out how to market. So that's the first
Sure.
step. But then if they can figure out how to market, they can't figure out how to get off the truck. So they're not going to be able to keep up with the marketing and putting out all the estimates and doing the installs. So the first step is you got to figure out marketing. If you're in a Christmas light company, the next step is you got to figure out how to hire people that can go out and do the work with you not being there. And those are like the
Yeah.
two big things that I've seen, that if you can get those two things down, your company probably is going to get to at least, I mean, it can go beyond six figures. So
Yeah. And if you like when you're starting off, like make your process like pretending you're not there, pay yourself hourly. Like if you were going to hire someone for your spot, if you can pay yourself that hourly, that way when it's time to do, it's not this big, oh my gosh, how am I going to afford it? Well, you've already been affording it. So like that's just something that when you can do that, it starts building it into your budget. So you know what it's going to cost because you've been paying yourself what you'd be paying the guy you're going to hire.
okay, so like right now, I'm trying to think. I was just thinking the other day, I could use my VA to go through. Well, he's working for Christmas Light Contractors right now, but I'm trying to think stuff that needs to get done. Like what? Okay, everyone's asking right now, how do we get customers in Christmas? Like, what's the best form of marketing? I know right now. I was just going talking with another guy. Well, I was talking with JC Chanowski, and
Yeah.
like right now, he was just highly advocating. He's like, look, go through all your old lists, all the customers that denied the estimates. Uh, so would you train a VA to do stuff like that, to go through all your leads from the last previous years that didn't pull the trigger? Would you advocate that, to go and try to
If you don't have it set up, yeah, absolutely. Like my CRM is already set up for, we have a whole section that's called No for Now. And that, what is that? Is that me? That's you.
no, no, that's
Oh.
me. There's
So we have a whole section called No for Now. And that's a huge money list. So we don't call them no, right? Because just because they were no one time doesn't mean that they're no forever. So we market to those people all year long, whether it's just an email, quarterly email talking about gemstones, landscape lighting, Christmas coming up. It's just always softening it so that when we do make that call or that email, that hard sell, if you will, it's not just out of the blue. So if you don't have that in a list form already, then yeah, having a VA do that, super easy for your VA, and it will be valuable for sure as long as you
so
actively
how about
market to them.
so you're real big into permanent lighting. So I was just thinking, I want to go after. How have you ever known anyone with success? I'm going to go after. So last year, Brendan Morrow pointed out he was killing it last year, but he went over all his old leads that ended up hiring another company, and so they were hard nosed, like they passed, and he ended up
Sure.
finding a gold mine in it by all the leads that ended up hiring another Christmas light company. He retargeted them. I think it was about this time of the year last year, and he was getting a lot of signups, because what he's found is a lot of the people ended up not liking the contractor they hired, or it was
Yeah.
like a certain percentage of them didn't like the contractor they hired, so they were actually in the business, they were actually actively trying to figure out a different company to install their lights the next year. I thought that was a huge win, so I want to actually do that with my Christmas lights right now. I think I got to get my VA right now targeted on that, either that or my secretary. I got to get one or the other. Probably my secretary, so we can still use Addie to do some of the stuff for Christmas Light Contract. But what about, before I do that? What do you think would be more effective? Well, I maybe different. So for permanent lighting, should I target all the leads that hadn't pulled the trigger on permanent lighting, or just mostly target my own current customer base?
Well, when you're just starting out for like, oh, this is what I did like when I was even with like landscape lighting and with the permanent lighting, is I target the people that said no first. So I get a couple jobs. I'm a big believer in doing like your first 10 jobs just to basically break even, pay yourself, but break even to get those reps in, get your trucks on the road, get some great portfolio shots, and build up your own confidence, because so much of it is your confidence when you're talking to a client and you've never done a job, or maybe you just did your house. Like, even if the client's not saying it, they can feel you're not confident. So before I target the real money list, the clients that I know already know, like, and trust me, right? The hardest part is getting them to open up their wallet one time. And I know they will again. I want to make sure I'm going to provide them the service they've come to expect from me. So I would start when if you haven't done any jobs, yeah, start with the people that said no. Hey, I got the everyman light. It's not a reoccurring thing. You pay me once and then you're good. You can find out that your clientele, I find that my clientele for the soffit lights is different than my Christmas lights for the majority of my soffit lights is people who
So,
can't afford reoccurring Christmas install, but they can
so
afford the one-time project.
So how many? So you've been doing permanent lights for quite a while. How many? What percentage of your Christmas light customers ended up converting to permanent lights? Is it like 5%, ten
Maybe,
percent, 5%?
maybe five, probably less. Yep.
Okay, so it's not a huge conversion rate, but if you have like I have about 320 customers. So last year I sent out one email to talk about permanent lights. That's all I did. And I ended up getting 7 of my customers to convert, which ends up being about that's about 2%. So I probably still should have another 3 or 4% of my customers that would convert. So how aggressively did you target your Christmas light? Because I'm actually right now trying to convert my Christmas light customers to permanent lights because it worked out great last year for me because the 7 ones that no longer installed Christmas lights, I was able to install them much earlier in the year, and I had
Yeah.
more capacity to take on more customers for Christmas lights because I got them off my list earlier.
Yeah. Everyone that I've done it, every one of my, well, there might have been one, but everyone that I've actually converted to the permanent roof, we'll call it, they still have me come back and do brand traps or garland,
Really?
something like. Yeah, every single one of them, besides
Oh
one.
man, I'm going to use that as a soundbite if you don't mind. But
No.
that because the biggest reason why people say they don't want to do permanent lights is like, well, I don't want to lose that customer. Like I'm used to doing those houses for so many years, and now I'm going to lose it because I'm going to get more money up front for 1 year, but I'll never see them again. But you're saying almost all your customers that do permanent lights still hire you to do the tree work and other stuff.
Yeah, I get more. I have more of a conversion for like my permanent soffit lights going more into Christmas, and a lot of these guys I keep them at the same budget for Christmas. I'm like, hey, well now you don't have the roof line. Let's just spend that money somewhere else. We'll do
Serious,
a
the
patch.
same
Oh
budget.
yeah, yeah, yep,
Wow. So
yeah.
this
It's
is
been
one of the
great.
biggest guys in the permanent lighting industry. So if you guys don't like, he's not just saying something that he doesn't know nothing about. Like he actually, he's very familiar with permanent lights. He's been doing it a long time, and he's still getting the Christmas light money out of the same customers that he's hanging permanent lights on their house.
Yeah,
That
absolutely.
that's incredible. But so the big thing is, I know you're more active now. So you actually do training, right? You train people how to do lighting projects. Like you're actually a coach. Is that is that correct to some people or not? Are
Oh,
you
of
froze?
course you break up.
Okay, I can hear you now.
Yeah, I'm frozen. You're frozen. Okay, I didn't hear what you said.
Okay, so
Am I
you
frozen?
actually, I mean, people if they wanted to, they could. No, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yep.
You there?
I'm
Okay.
here. Yes.
So your big thing is now you don't so you actually offer like we call you group expert in the group. So you've been through most every milestone. I would say 99.9% of the people in our group, your Christmas light company has gone further than theirs. So there's not I mean, there's only a handful, maybe 5 guys in our group that have done over $1 million in Christmas lights or lighting period. So that means you're so out of our 9,000 people in the group, you are know more about Christmas light. You know all the hurdles they have to go through more
Yeah.
than like I would say 99.9%. I don't think we have 10 people in our group that do over $1 million in Christmas lights. So you know, or at least in lighting. So I don't you know more than them. But so people can if they ask you just so look when you guys are seeing people comment in the group and you ask a question and other people are commenting, just remember not everyone's comment has as much as much weight behind it. As not every comment is worth as much as the other one. So you got to know who's coaching you.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
But so the big thing is some people probably don't know, but you don't actually really install Christmas lights anymore. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I basically gave or sold my client list away last year to another company, and so at this point, I'm just a consultant for Christmas, and I still close jobs. Right, I still have my business name and all my website, my phone number, which still generates clients, which then I basically sell, if you will, to
Okay.
help them.
So, but that's because you actually make more money doing landscape lighting. Is that correct? Than you did Christmas lights?
Yeah, and it was like, okay, so yes, the money was there, still great margins, and it wasn't, I could do the same amount of volume with maybe two guys and a part-timer across the whole year rather than trying to, I mean, you know how Christmas is, right? It's like basically it becomes October and then it's February and it's like, I didn't have the family time. I didn't have a life really. It was just all 7 days a week in the field. Even if I was just running around to job sites or running to the warehouse, making sure things were on the trucks and trailers. So, yeah, that was kind of the thing that for me was like, wow, I can do this, and it can be a little bit more relaxed, if you will.
Okay, but how long did it take you to get to a replacement income for Christmas lights and landscape lighting? I think you got there pretty quick. Is if
Yeah, I think
I
it was
don't know the whole.
year two. I was able to do it for
So
doing
year two,
landscape.
you were able to do more in landscape lights than you were actually, or than you were doing in Christmas lights, which is about 700,000 to 800,000 a year in Christmas lights.
Yeah, for the permanent side, that was combined in second year between the soffits and the landscape lighting. All again, because I market them together a lot of times. So yeah, by the second year, I was able to match Christmas, and I was like, all right. And it was, at the home life, my son didn't have a father, my wife didn't have a husband for 4 months out of the year. So
Well, I'm thinking myself, like I don't know. My numbers are not quite as high as yours, but if I could space out my Christmas light business over the course of 8 months versus doing it all in 3 months, that would be a whole lot less stress. Because Christmas lights, you can grow your business, and
yeah,
but every year the stress like compounds from the year before. It's you
yeah.
can get systems in place, but no matter how good your systems are, they're going to be stress tested.
Well, like I described, like it's if you could have that manpower all year, that's a whole different situation, right? But if you look at like what you do for Christmas, if you were actually doing that every single month, you go from maybe $1 million a year company to what would represent a $10 million a year company, and you don't have those systems in place. That's a different set of systems when you're doing that much volume in a short period of time. But it's only for 4 months, so the rest of the year your systems aren't operating at that level. They can't. You don't have that manpower. You don't have that revenue, so it's like you're trying to make these switches to go from, it could be a great company, but if you were doing what we do in Christmas every month of the year, you would have a whole different business, a whole different crew, different systems. So that's one of the hard things. If I were to go back, if I ever start doing Christmas with a little crew, I would just set, okay, I'm only going to do like 300,000, right? And just not try to grow past that. For me, just knowing that I want more. I wanted more of my life back, and seeing guys just running them. We call them Christmas zombies.
Well, so I mean so this was the first year you weren't actually like hands-on installing Christmas lights, but I mean, you still probably had help quite a bit because it was your first year transitioning out of installing them. But
There's been a
I
couple years I haven't been able to be out there when I used to have my operations manager in place and all that. But yeah,
Okay, but but you still owned your Christmas light coming up till last year, correct? Or
yeah,
well, yeah,
correct.
before
Yep.
last season was the first year you transitioned out, and I was actually shocked because like he's one of the bigger Christmas light companies in the U.S. and he uh he sold it and well he managed it I think to some degree still, but he became a landscape lighter, and I knew he started doing landscape lighting, and I knew he was doing pretty well, but I didn't know he was doing that well at landscape lighting. And the big thing is he did it like really fast. He grew, and so we know quite a few people like in this group and other people have gotten involved in landscape lighting. They're not having the same success that Matt is. So that's part of the reason that I'm interviewing him right now is I know a lot of the guys are in the same boat that I am. That you do very well with Christmas lights, and it becomes like your largest revenue stream for the year. But the rest of the year, you're kind of struggling to figure out some other way to keep your employees around or to something that makes sense because the margins just aren't there anymore. And so a lot of guys have tried to get into landscape lighting, but it's kind of been a flop for them. So
Yeah.
Matt actually has done it. He's been very successful. It took him, I mean, within almost 2 years, he was pretty much able to get into landscape lighting and replace his Christmas light income and make it much more manageable. Like, and it's very similar to, I mean, I can't deny it. I mean, my wife, I think last year was the first time she probably only cried once during the season. Maybe she didn't at all. But we realized for all year long, I'm thinking about how can I get stress off of my wife. I think she might have still cried one time last year, but the year before it was like almost every day. So it's the stress of Christmas lights. I cannot explain it, but your first year, you think it's your goal is to get jobs. Your second year, you're still trying to get jobs, but at some point, you transition to you're trying to get enough people to get the work done, and that's when the stress starts, and it just goes the stress load goes up and up from there every year.
Oh yeah. Every time it like snows or rains, it's kind of like you're just praying the phone doesn't ring because it's gonna be like my lights tripped or the snow took my lights off, you know.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, I'm pretty interested. I actually was going to dive into landscape lighting a couple years ago, but then the Connecticut regulations are pretty steep. They really want you to be a licensed electrician. I'm still trying. I know a guy that had a Christmas light company right up the about 20 minutes up the road from me, and he sold it. He tried to sell me his Christmas light company because his landscape lighting had really taken off, and he's still like I think
Okay.
he's one of the biggest landscape lighters in the area. Um, but his landscape lighting business is about 20 minutes away in Rhode Island, which they don't have the same stipulations. Connecticut, I think, is probably the most stringent in the country for low voltage. Like they want you to be
Yeah,
they want you to be they want you to be a licensed electrician to install low voltage landscape lights. It's crazy.
it is crazy. And most states are 50 volts and under, you're good. But yeah, I don't know every state for sure. I remember you and I have talked about your state, and it's mind blowing, right? It's low voltage. It's like, licking a 9-volt battery as a kid. We're talking about that same type of low voltage, right?
Right, right. So you have a training coming up next month? Landscape
Yeah.
lighting training?
Yeah, June 10th through the 14th, out in California, San Marcos, with my mentor. That's one of the reasons I was able to go so fast. Is not only was I, I know I've been called by God to be a light, and I bring light, whether that's through my coaching or through actually bringing physical lights, right? So it's a cool thing for me. But getting in with my mentor, it gave me like an actual mentor. It wasn't just a coach, and there's a difference, right? So and he just poured all the knowledge into me, and I just realized how much he was willing to give me. So I just made as many trips out to him as I could. I talked to him on the phone all the time, video chatted with him, and I took that being a mentee as a very serious position rather than just like, oh, did I show up? It was more of like, I'm going to soak up everything I possibly can because this matters, and that's what I did. And yeah, so it's me and my mentor. I got him to do actual. We're trying to structure the training better to help. He's helped a couple guys like me across the country. I mean, he's been doing this 30 years, but recently with his new manufacturing with us guys, and it's cool because I get to see it's not just me, right? There's guys in Miami, there's guys in Texas, guys in Arizona, where we're seeing the same exact results. So it's like, all right, this is real, this matters. Let's help people learn in a way that helps someone who's never done landscape lighting to actually become a designer, be confident in that, because anyone can get a light at Home Depot or at the supply house and slap it on the ground. So that's the huge difference, is knowing the systems and knowing design. And that's all. Before I sold my first job, I'd never installed a fixture. I'd never crimped a wire. I'd only studied design, and that's how confident I was because I knew the design was so nice. And I got to show the clients that, and they agreed. So
So your
that
very first year installing landscape lighting, how much? What was your gross revenue your very first season?
oh, I think it was right around 300, 350. If,
350. That's like incredible. That's much better than most of the guys I know that have gone to landscape lighting training. So that's 350,000 your very first year doing landscape lighting, and the
yeah,
margins are pretty good for. I mean, they're
yeah.
close to Christmas light margins, right?
Yeah, I mean the product is obviously more expensive than Christmas. There's not really that necessarily recurring as you would think of it as Christmas, but yeah, I mean it's anywhere from 55 to 48%
And you did that
margin.
with just two guys and two guys in a lead, or was that three guys, or you and two
Basically
guys?
three guy. It's basically three guy. Well, no, I didn't even install a job until like I just had I had two full time guys and a part timer, if you will. So I had three guys, and I didn't like my first maybe 10 jobs. I just was on site to show them exactly where I wanted lights. Um, and then I realized that I needed to go install some myself so I could walk guys through it better. But yeah, I mean, the once you understand landscape lighting, like it's easy, and that's why it's easy for guys to get into and they jump into it because it's simple. The problem is if you don't get the design right, people don't remember you. Like it just is what it is. They don't, because you're not giving them the backyards or the front yards that they deserve. So focusing on, because the install part, the basic install, what everyone's doing is two wire system, super easy. But when you start getting into the trick things and lighting up things other guys won't, that's why my money went so fast, right? Because other guys are like, no, we can't do the second story. No, we can't do lights over there. I'm like, yeah, of course we can. Like, let's do this. So Yeah.
You do you offer some sort of mentorship right now yourself, or you just pretty you're part of the other group
Yeah.
that you're referring to?
Yeah, so right now where I'm just training them, I'm working on it because I know there's been guys that have been asking me that would like to do that. So I mean, if someone's interested, I'm willing to talk, figure some stuff out because I do love helping people, and I already mentor some guys locally for in landscape, like they do landscaping, not lighting, and a couple other guys throughout the years that I've just helped because I enjoy it, right? Like I like seeing someone, start. Like even that, there's two kids. They were like 21 and 22, starting a lawn mowing company. Took them from they had made $6,000 a year. They were making it, and that first year, me just helping them, they did like 86,000 in mowing lawns, and now they're bigger than that. So I love mentoring guys. So yeah, anyone's interested in Christmas light mentoring or
Yeah, so
outdoor
I
lighting
would
in general.
So Christmas light contractors, we have definitely helped through the years a number of people that kind of end up being their launching platform. I mean, not just us. They other people they saw they kind of
Yeah,
saw something in them. But Matt is definitely a genuine guy, and he's not going to try to high pressure ever sell you anything and try to sign up for his course if he feels like it's going to it's not really in your best interest. So I think that right now, if you're thinking about getting into landscape lighting, I would highly recommend sending Matt a DM, whatever, trying to talk to him outside. He's a wealth of knowledge for Christmas lights, but also like I think he could really help your landscape lighting company take off. Like if I was actually installing it, I would probably really ask him for design consult, all that kind of stuff, because he's not going to take advantage of you. So he's not just going to have pressure into high pressure sales, sign up for this or whatever. Like he's really going to over deliver. So that's
yeah.
like, he's not a he likes to help guys. So I know I'm just really impressed with. I think his very first install he said was over almost $30,000 for landscape lighting. I wouldn't feel comfortable taking on a job that big, but he had a mentor in his corner that kind of coached him through the process and helped him land the job. If you take on a landscape lighting job and you don't even know the bidding process or how to do a mock-up, you may end up getting yourself in a bunch of trouble and really underbidding really what you should and not understanding what the true pricing should be, all that kind of stuff. But I'm sure Matt would give you all that kind of info.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it can be scary, especially if you're talking to the guy at the supply house. Like, if that's your first guy in line, that's who you're buying from, and they've never done a job, so you're going to get different, um, tips and tricks. Because I'm still out there, I still go out there even when I have a crew. I make sure I go out there to see an install, to do some install, because keep your mind fresh. You think of new ideas, and you remember and keep your mind. Yes, this is what it's like. Because it was just a few years ago, right? Like I remember struggling. Like that's legitimate. I'd hate Christmas to end, and I would just wait for Christmas to start again, hope to God that I could get through it. And this is in outdoor lighting in general. The rest of the year is what changed everything for me.
Yeah, so I think like with Christmas like contractors, like we sell product, but me and Donovan are still in the field installing, and so is Tyler. He's out there drumming up work for permanent lights. So things change over the years. Like there's even now I'm learning some new software that I think will really help my install business, my Christmas light install business, and help me get better systems into place. But we're in the trenches, like we're still out there install and run an install business. And
Yeah.
it's different than just going to a supplier that's trying to push product on you.
Right.
Like Matt will know what you really need. He's not just trying to sell you MR16 or whatever. Like if because he understands like you need to be able to be confident, sell your jobs before you start buying product. That's the more important part of the process.
100%. Absolutely.
Okay, well, anyone's thinking about landscape lighting, I would highly recommend get a hold of Matt. I know he's got a training coming up here in about a month. If I was into landscape lighting, I would probably seriously consider going out there. But because I'm in the state I'm in, I'm probably not myself ever going to get into landscape lights. So unless I want
Sure.
to, I toyed around with the idea of bringing an electrician and just paying him to be on staff. But at this point, that's probably no go. But if I do get into it, I probably will do that. So that way, Connecticut's a
Yeah.
whole different animal. They're really they're really the building inspectors out here crazy. So
That sounds it. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, feel free to DM me if anyone questions or whatever. Obviously Facebook's a great spot or Instagram. I'm Captain Matt Official on Instagram. So either one of those two, I'll answer you. Shoot me a message.
all right,
All
sounds
right,
good.